Bon. Hello and welcome to this Android Annotations presentation. We are really happy to be here today at Devox. We are going to take the next 30 minutes to present Android Annotations, which is an Android framework. So my name is Pierre-Yves Ricot, and I created Android Annotations 2 years ago. I now work for Sign, which is basically a startup that created an Android keyboard that has nice features, well, like extra features. I won't go into much details today, but you can check it out. Here is Alex.
Okay. So my name is Alexandre Thomas. I'm a Java, Android, and iOS developer at Business Information in Paris. I'm a committer on Android Annotations, and I'm also the creator of AndroidKickstarter.com. So Android Kickstarter is a tool for quick starting a well-configured Android application using the most popular libraries, such as Action Bar Sherlock, such as, of course, Android Annotations or Accra, and so on. So, before we get started, how many of you guys have tried to write a simple Android application such as an Hello World? Okay, oh, everybody. And now, how many of you have already developed a more complex application and maybe published it on the market, the Play Store? Okay, that's good. So you probably realize that the source code of your Android applications becomes less and less readable as the application grows. So I'm sure you noticed that you write the same code over and over, and that your activity becomes bigger and bigger, full of anonymous classes, anonymous listener classes. So we think that this kind of thing disturb the readability and the clarity of the code. So our goal is to bring a solutions to replace this boilerplate code with simple code that shows its intent using annotations. And that's really what Android Annotations is trying to do. It makes your application more readable, and it makes your application more maintainable. So, Android Annotations is an annotation processor. So, annotation processing appeared with Java 5, and it became a standard with Java 6. So an annotation processor works at compile time. It can generate resources, and it can add errors or warnings at compile time. So in the Android Annotations context, we use it to generate the code, to generate the boilerplate code, and put it in subclasses. So Pierre-Yves will show you more details about this in the live coding. Let's look at two examples of what Android Annotation is can do for you. With the addViewById annotation. So to retrieve a view, in Android, to retrieve a view, you have to call the findViewById method and give it an ID. So you have to cast the return view, and finally assign it to a field. So let's see how we can do better with Android Annotations. Okay. With Android Annotations, you just need to add the viewById annotation onto the field and set the view ID. So that's quite simple, but we can even improve that. You probably noticed that the field name is the same as the view ID. So AndroidAnnotation is able to leverage that, and we can remove it. So I remove it. Just pushing on this button. Okay. And that's quite simple. Now it's very simple. Let's look at the second example. The add-click annotations. So here is the code that you have to write to handle click events on a view. So you have to retrieve the view by calling the findViewById method. You have to set a listener, so you create a new instance of an anonymous class implementing the onClick listener interface, and you override the onClick method. And finally, you handle the click event and you do something. And once again, let's see how we can do better with AndroidAnnotations. Okay. So simply by annotating the button clicks method with the add-click annotations and setting the view ID, the button click method will be called when the button is clicked. So that's very simple. That's quite simple. And once again, we can even do better with AndroidAnnotation. So here, the button click method. So
yeah, well, it's quite simple. Yeah.
So it's quite simple. Excuse me.
Magic.
You can notice that the button click method. Excuse me.
Okay, let's hand to the next slide. Basically, you understood that button can be removed.
Okay, that's very simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have seen only 2 annotations, but there are more than 70 annotations in Android annotations. So to inject resources, you have the drawable res, you have the color res or dimension res. To handle events, you have the item long click or long click, so there are much more. AndroidAnnotation is an open source project, so under an Apache license. We've just released the 2.7 version a week ago. And the source code is available on GitHub. Also, the project is sponsored by a company. This company is eBusiness Information. And there are applications that use the framework. So now
it's time for live coding.
Live coding.
Well, it's not going to be a live coding nor a live refactoring, but a code tie-it. So let's just start by presenting the app. Could you switch to the yeah, don't want to mess things up. You shouldn't do that. Okay. Okay, so let's first show the app. So, okay, we could have a problem here. The screen is too small. Anyway, so what do you see here? Not much. That's going to be pretty fun. So we are going to improvise here. how do you launch an app without having access to the launch app button? Yeah, run the app. Pretty good. Does it start? Yeah. Okay, so, and again, these things happen. That's quite bad. Let's do the things differently. Okay, may I improvise something? We have a button that you can't see here, and that's quite important. So we're going to do something here. We're just going to edit the beers. Yeah, it's talking about beers. So we had everything prepared. You can see it here, and we are going to try to change the things by having the image view, not this one, but this one, go at the top, align parent top. And these will go below, so below, margin top. And let's hope that magically it works. So this is nothing about Android annotations, it's just classic Android. And here we go. So we are at Devox. For each presentation, we're trying to create a new app. So we decided to create an app to count the beer you drink. Basically, it just counts the beers. And that's a fantastic app. And in case, because we are also maybe working here, in case your boss is around, there is an emergency button. So you just have to press the emergency button and it removes everything. So you see that it's quite a simple app, just about a few buttons and saving a few things. And let's look at the corresponding Android code. So it's going to be the beer counter activity. And basically, you'll notice a few things. There's always the noise, like Alex said about the on-click listener. A lot of noise. What interests you here is just this call. Again, you probably know about async tasks. Let's find another one here. They are very neat, but they add a lot of noise. Here you see that there are two void parameters because we don't use them, but they are still there adding noise. Why do we need an async task here? Because we are saving the number of beers, so every time you restart the app, you have the same numbers. We are saving that on a file. We are accessing the file system. That's an I/O operation. We shouldn't do it on the UI thread, so we need to go on a parallel thread. So, well, that's it for the presentation of the app. Let's do some refactoring, I think. So Alex will be doing all the work, and I will just be talking. So if something goes wrong, it's his responsibility. So we just need to add Android annotations. We've already put the jars in the lib folder. There's one jar in the libs folder, which is the API, which is basically the annotations. It's only like 50K. Won't take anything in your app. And the annotation processor won't be part of the final APK. It's just code that generates code, basically. So here, we are going to add the annotation processor to the project. So it's basically going to the Java compiler and enabling Java 1.6 and adding the annotation processor to the factory path. So we just need to enable project-specific settings, and the jar is in the folder, and we just add it. So now what happens is that every time we compile a file in Eclipse, if there's an Android annotation within it, the annotation processor, our call, will be called. It will be called by Javac. Well, not Javac here because we are in Eclipse, but you get the idea. So let's open the beer counter activity. So we just start in Android annotation by putting an @e annotation on an activity. Yeah, that's all. And something bad happens. Oh, there's an error. What's happening? So, like Alex told you, Android annotations generates code. In fact, we generate subclasses of the activity, and we put the boilerplate code in these subclasses. So these subclasses need to be in the manifest because that's the one we want to be instantiated by the Android system. So basically, Android annotations read the manifest, and it says that the subclasses should be in the manifest, but it's not the case. The subclass has the same package and class name with an underscore at the end. So you just need to add an underscore in your manifest, which you just did. Yeah. and then all of a sudden, hopefully, it will work. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it works. Great. So next step, maybe what we can do here, we see that set content view sets the content view, but when you think about it, most of the time you have one activity and one layout. So this information, what layout is using the activity, is quite important. So we'd rather see it at the top of the class. And we can do that. The @activity annotation accepts an ID parameter, a layout parameter. So once we do that, we can get rid of set content view, basically. The next step, which you saw in the slides, is basically putting @viewById on the text view. And since the ID is beer count view and the view is named beer count view, AndroidAnnotations sees that there is a subclass in error.id that has this very same name, so there is a field, sorry, so it injects it, and you can get rid of the find view by ID. And again, same goes, I guess you understand now that it's going to be always the same thing. There is some code, and we just get rid of it. That's why it's called diet-driven development, basically. We just get rid of the fat code. Here we have a listener, an on-click listener, and all you care about is knowing that when your view is clicked, this method is going to be called. So some guys may say, yeah, but in Android you can put in the XML you can put the name of the method with an on-click attribute. The problem with that is that you don't see it within the class, so you need to open the layout and understand. And here you can see it basically by just looking at the @click annotation, which we're going to put on @beer_button_click. Again, the method is named, that's a convention, right? We use convention over configuration, which means that if you want to name your method differently, you can, and you just need to set the ID within the annotation. So here, yeah, @beer_button, that's the name of the view, and we just get rid of that. Okay, let's get down now. We have this async task, and basically what it does here is just executing some code in a background thread, basically saving the beer count. So we just put @background on the method, and it's going to be called in a background thread. And now we can get rid of all this noise. Yeah, again. Okay, good. So that's, we won't do anything about this method. It's quite fine. There's no it's not like an annotation for everything. It has to be useful. So here again, an async task, a bit more complex. So this loads the beer count in background from the preferences. So yeah, we just need to get rid of the async task, but there is an operation that is done on the UI thread afterwards. So that's the beer count loaded method. So here, you're seeing that we are calling this method right from here. So you're saying, yeah, but this method is going to be called on the background thread, right? We want to prevent that. So we just put an @UI thread annotation. And here, we have a guarantee that a beer count loaded is going to be called on the UI thread. So basically, we went from a callback way of coding to a more like a traditional imperative with following a flow, and it's much more readable, but we still see with the annotations on which thread it's going to happen. Another little thing is that when you have options menu, most of the time it's always the same options. And in that case, that's an information you'd like to have at the top of your class. Again, it's not really nice that it's somewhere in the middle and you don't exactly know where. So we just have an @options menu annotation, which does exactly like the other one. We just do that, and then we can get rid of the onCreate options menu method. And I guess you understand now that we can also get rid of that. So we have an @options item annotation, that we will put on emergency selected. So again, the ID is emergency. @options item recognize the selected pattern, the selected suffix. So from that, it understands that it has to bind the options item to emergency selected. Here we go. So let's hope it works. I pray for it. No, I think it will work. It's not so much of a change. So is it already running or is it coming? No, it's coming. Okay. Yeah, it works. Okay, good. I'm happy. No demo effect, nothing. So now you're going to tell me, okay, the annotations look nice, but it looks a bit like black magic. What's happening, really? So we tell you, we generate a subclass. Every time you save your file in Eclipse, it is compiled, the annotation processor runs, and we generate a new subclass. And if you look at the subclasses here, we have the subclasses that is right there, generated by AndroidAnnotations. And you'll notice all the boilerplate code that you had before, the set content view, the find view by ID, the set on click listener, all those things are in the subclass. This means a few things when you think about it. You've probably heard about AspectJ, AOP, dark magic with bytecode, you know, these kind of things that you just put an annotation or something in a file and all of a sudden everything works perfectly and you don't have to write any code anymore. That's not the case with AndroidAnnotations, but we have a good reason for that. When you start doing dark magic, when something goes bad, you don't know what to do, basically. And you just try using more dark magic to fix the dark magic. Here, everything is generated. So you can put a breakpoint in this code. You can look at it, and the idea is that most of the time you don't need to, so it's hidden, but it's like unfolding a method. When you need to look at it because something's going wrong, you just go there and see the code. So that's quite important, no dark magic. Yeah, now we could, you can see, that's quite interesting too. So how does the add background and add UI thread methods work? Basically, what we do is override the method and call to super through a different thread. So we just switch thread and call to super from there, and it works. Yeah, that's it. So basically, I think we went quite fast. Yeah, one more thing, of course. In case you want to see the beer application, which is super useful, maybe you'll be drinking beers tonight. We've put it on the Android market, yeah, somewhere. Okay, so that's the URL of the application with the button as the button is at the bottom and not at the top. We didn't expect that. Anyway, so yeah, that's mainly the idea is that yeah, and you can take photos, you can try. It should work. So you'll see a lot of Android frameworks out there, some libraries for views, and which are really great. Some frameworks for organizing your code and trying to do clean code. We are aware of them, and we think we are one of them. We also try to provide integration layers with other frameworks, such as RoboJuice or I don't know, we have integration layers with Action Bar Sherlock. You probably noticed that this app uses Action Bar Sherlock, and that's not a problem, even if the options menu is different. Basically, in Action Bar Sherlock, it's not the same packages for the options menu and everything. So I think we went actually really fast, probably too fast. But if you have any question now, it's time to ask for questions.
How do we manage, for example, on options populate, on options menu populate? And if I want to hide a specific menu item when it's populated in some situation?
Okay, so the question is, when you use add options menu and when you want to hide some options menu items in some specific situations, how do you do that? Basically, the answer will be you don't do it this way. You do it the other way, the usual way. But it doesn't mean you can't use add options item at the same time. You can use both. which means you can use the usual on options item selected or on create options menu and the annotations. We provide cases for the 80%, but in case of a specific, well, for specific cases, it's still Android code and you just have to use your Android skills, of course. Any other question?
What version do you support? What version
Of Android? Yeah, okay, what versions of Android do we support? I believe we support Android 1.5, so API level 3, up to the latest. We've tested thoroughly until 7 or 8. So I don't guarantee much before, but we have, basically we have unit tests and functional tests that work on Android 1.5. So we've been quite careful about supporting all the main versions of Android, of course. Yeah.
When you run something in the background and have a function that is called on the iPad and again, using runnable, what I've seen here, using a handler and runnable in the generated classes, isn't there like a performance difference between using the async task pre and post execute methods instead of the runnable?
That's a very good question. So the question is, you've seen that when we use @UI thread, we're generating a subclass that creates a new runnable, and same thing goes for @background. And so isn't it less performant than async task? And the raw answer is yes, probably. But to me, the answer is we don't care. It's time for Android developers to realize that it doesn't matter to use interfaces instead of implementation. It doesn't matter to use, you don't have to use an array list instead of a list. Those hacks are for really specific places where you need really good performances. When you retrieve a view, when you have an on-click listener or something like that, when you, I don't know, when you're basically manipulating the standard Android code, you don't need to do all the hacks. So basically, yeah, creating a new runnable that will be garbage collected afterwards is probably takes more performances than an async task that works with a handler for the UI thread and uses messages. But to be honest, if you're not handling a lot of events, that's that's perfectly fine. Yeah. And another question then. Sorry? Yeah.
Update no. If I call the account loaded 3 times.
Which one? Sorry?
The function that is run on the UI thread.
@UI thread. So it's beer account loaded. Yeah.
So if I would call it 3 times in a row,
yeah.
Side load the account.
Yeah. No, we don't optimize that. Though, in fact, I think we do because no, we don't. No, that's right. You'd have to, if you wanted to call it 3 times in a row, then you'd have to write another method with @UI thread that calls it from there. That's right. But that would be very hard to optimize. Basically, it's just generated code. So if you propose me with some way to generate code that would look, that would do the job, the way we always have new features proposed on Android annotations, and the way we attack them is first think about the need, and then we think about how the generated code would look like, and then we implement the thing. So if there's a way to generate code that would do that, then fine, add an issue on GitHub. Yeah, I think we have 1 minute left, so we are kind of running out of time. So if there's more questions? I don't see. Oh, yeah, one.
Is it possible to turn off logging in generated class?
Yeah, is it possible to turn off logging in the generated class? No, and that's bad, and that's your next issue on GitHub. Yeah, that's one of the things we want to do. It's on the to-do list, basically. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions, so thank you for listening, and I hope you'll use Android Annotations.